You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
That's a bucket list.
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
That's right, welcome. My name is Maury, and this is episode 1 of the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast. Thank you for listening in, and over the series we're going to be interviewing, well, hopefully hundreds of Aussie and international stand-up comedians and finding out a bit more about how they tick, why they do what they do, and how they do what they do. And so it would be only fair to make sure that the first interviewee, the first comedian that we had on the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast was in fact the founder, or I should say co-founder, Ben Horowitz. Ben, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you travelling?
I'm very good. Ben, you apart from being a stand-up comedian, you're also a boxer, I believe.
Correct. I had my first professional fight in 1992. And I'm looking at making a type of comeback, not to the professional ranks, but just in the masters, because now I'm about turned 45, and that means you're officially way too old doing anything professionally as dumb as getting punched in the face for money.
Well, I think we'll get on to hecklers a little bit later on, but I imagine people knowing that you're a boxer, now out of retirement, is probably going to be a helpful tool when you're up on stage and the audience gets a bit riley. But let me start. You were a boxer previously, and then suddenly you decided to become a stand-up comedian. So you've been a stand-up comedian for 15 years, is that right?
It was about August 2001. So, yeah, 16.
About 16 years, fantastic. And what made you? So tell me, you're punching people in the face, and then you had a moment where you thought, hang on, this isn't the right thing for me. I want to try something different. I want to make this guy laugh rather than punch his teeth out. What was the reason you got into stand-up comedy?
Well, I suppose like anybody who thought they'd have a crack on the stage of being funny, I thought I was funny. And then I met somebody who ran a comedy venue, and he said, well, get up and prove it. So I did. And I had quite a few very good gigs early doors, and kind of progressed, but this is pre-internet days, so getting gigs when you're an unknown comic is quite nightmarish. Anybody who ever does decide to go into comedy, they'll realise just how long of a hard road it can be to become established.
So what made you think, what was the moment? Do you actually remember the moment where you got up on stage? Was it the first day you got up on stage, or was it later where you said, hey, you know what, I could do this seriously?
That is I've never had that. If it's an epiphany where you think you could do it for serious, to me, just telling jokes or saying things in my own way, looking for the punchline every time I talk, really. It's like, why would you go to all the effort of having a conversation with somebody if it wasn't going to be funny in the first place? Which is probably a little bit crazy, because not every conversation needs humour, but I feel it does anyway. So, did
you have any influences, other comedians, other comics out there here in Australia or overseas that influenced you early on, do you think?
There's many comics I love watching and really enjoy their way of expressing and their delivery. I think Steve Martin is one of the more off the wall, at least when he was younger. You could watch a whole hour of his stuff and think, there wasn't any actual jokes in there, and I laughed. Why am I laughing? And the very first time I watched the Steve Martin live from 1979, it goes for about 40-odd minutes. And I sat there straight-faced the whole way through waiting for some stand-up. And at the end, the entire crowd stood up and applauded. I thought, why are they getting an ovation for that? This is back in the videotape days. And I took it back. And then about 6 months later, I thought, I'm going to hire it again. I'm going to watch it again, knowing that it's not your general stand-up comedy. And I watched it again. I absolutely loved it. So you just got to adjust for the comedian that you think, you may have one idea in your head, but it doesn't mean it's the right idea of what somebody else's version of comedy is. And there's a million different ways to laugh at one thing. You can look at a cup, and you're going to see one angle, and I see another angle, and someone else is going to see another angle from a different angle, and everybody can find it. And I even like going on Facebook, and you see something that looks like a serious subject in a video, and you watch it, and you go in the comments, and it might take you to get to the second or third comment, but eventually somebody's written something that's just hilarious about something that might be horrific, but they find comedy in it, and you, oh well, there you go, there it is. You can always find humour in something. Doesn't matter how bad it is, and sometimes there's humour in things that are obvious, and that's the best part about comedy. Everything's funny. You just got to find the angle.
Boxing, it's pretty tragic. It's painful. Are all these the influences in comedy that you've used, maybe unconsciously? Or maybe you're unconscious?
No, I've never been unconscious. There's two things I can say about my career. I had 30 professional fights, and I obviously haven't been heard of for the obvious reason, really, as I didn't win many. But the two things I can say about my career is, one, I was never knocked off my feet. I was never even hurt. And the other thing I can say about my career is I had all my fights at the one weight. Unfortunately, that was overweight, so that's part of the reason my career never went anywhere. But no, I don't think boxing was a great influence in my comedy. I was funny before I started boxing. My first fight, I was 17 years old as an amateur. I do remember telling stories. The first type of story I told I was sitting in grade 2, so what was that, maybe about 6 or 7 years old, and I had 2 or 3 kids around me, and I was telling stories about the boogeyman. And it was just a guy. Now wait, before I say this next thing, we are talking about a 7-year-old humour here. I said the boogeyman, it was a guy covered in boogies. So, and I, looking back now, I'm trying to work out, was I trying to empower my thought to, because the boogeyman was a scary thing when I was a kid, and was I trying to depower him and empower me, or was I just making a joke about a guy covered in boogers? So I don't know, but that was my mindset early doors. Say things, try to look for the funny. And I didn't grow up watching any boxing movies or anything like that until the Rocky movies eventually took hold of me when I was maybe a mid to late teenager, and Raging Bull and things like that. But previously that was all comedy, just all comedy.
And boogers, just for those who may not be from Australia, is snot. Is that right? Just to clarify.
The hard green ones, yeah.
Oh, the hard and green. A very specific version of snot. Oh, good.
Exactly.
Excellent. So, it sounds like you've never bombed on the ring, the boxing ring, to a point. You've never been knocked off your feet, as you said. But what about on stage as a comedian? Have you ever bombed on stage?
Yeah, actually, I suppose the one gig that really stands out was I told a joke that in the same room the joke went that bad, and I was MC as well. So I had to get up there and front up more than once, and it was that bad. And at the same time, the next night I did a footy club, and it was the single hardest laugh to any joke I've ever seen ever, and it was right off the top. I was emceeing again. I told this joke and I said it, and the reaction was laughter for close to 2 minutes. And by the end of that 2 minutes, and I was kind of nervous because I really didn't know how it was going to go in a room after the nights before debacle. And this joke just went off, and at the end of the 2 minutes, I had tears in my eyes. I had to try to contain myself just because the laughter was such a rolling effect around the room. And after that, well, my opening set, just to get going, was about 10 or 12 minutes. And I went to 15 or 17 minutes or something like that, just to bring on the first comic. It was mad, and everybody had a great night from that point on. So the ultimately worst joke I ever told was also the best joke I ever told. So you just got to know your room. You know, pick your situation, and that comes with experience. That's all I can say about that one, I guess.
Unless you open with "I'm an ex-boxer," I guess you're probably going to get heckles. How do you deal with them?
Well, the drunks, you really just got to tear them down and shut them down. I mean, generally, if you say funny things and you are worth hearing, people don't heckle you. That's just a common rule. Whereas the drunks, you just chuck back one of the more generic lines like, "Mate, don't you know you shouldn't drink on an empty head?" Something like that, and they generally do shut down. But you occasionally got to keep them going. And there was a show we did last year, and this woman was talking to the person next to her, and it turned out she was whacked out on drugs. So no matter what I did to try to quieten her down, she didn't really care because she probably couldn't see me anyway. Anyway, she was removed from the room. That's what you can occasionally get.
Plan B is whistle at the bouncer and get them to take care of the problem?
Well, if somebody's not even there for the show, they're just there because maybe they're hiding from the cops and the crowd is a good place to do it, then you're not about to get them to see reason, so you just got to get them out. And apart from that, I mean, if people are willing to engage in conversation, I think you should engage in conversation because it doesn't matter. A joke that's said to somebody in the crowd, it's actual live humour. This is something that's, and it might have been a lot of the comics you see, and they like the big names who deal with hecklers, they're actually asking for hecklers, and then they tear them down. People go, oh wow, they're so ad-libbed. Yeah, they're so ad-libbed. They've done it 10,000 times before, but it looks brilliantly ad-libbed. Well, that's all part of it. You just got to keep gigging and gigging and gigging. Get up there and get up there, and when you think you've got up there enough, you got to get up there some more.
Oh, that's good. Good advice. So, again, leads me to my next question. It's almost as if I've sent these questions to you before and you've had to look over them. The big question for a lot of the people listening to this podcast, they're comedians of the future, they're comic wannabes, or they're in the comic scene, but they're not kicking it, they're not kicking goals. What's a piece of advice that you'd like to give? Just one. You've obviously given a lot of advice today, but one piece of advice that they can take away with them to be a good comic, to improve their game.
Got to be yourself, and having said gotta, you don't have to. You can also be a character, and you can also be completely different to who you normally are. But if you start looking at yourself first, find humour where you're at, where you are, you're around you, your surroundings, people you know, make it a story, and look for the funny, and there's funny in everything. But being yourself when you're actually on stage, it's a very relaxing thing. I mean, my first, maybe 6 months on stage, I could have not had anybody in the room, and I would have said the exact same things. And I remember it used to bug me. I think, man, I've got to start talking to people. Oh, it's such a big step. It scares me. What if this? What if that? And the reality is the best humour comes from when you talk to people. Now, I'm not saying just talk to people, but when you do have somebody to talk to as well, people really tune in because it's live. It's actually happening right there in front of them. And if you can find the funny, and it can be as lame as anything, if you can find the funny in something that's just sitting there, the crowd will laugh. It might be a 5 out of 10 normally. If it's live, straight away, bang, it's an 8 or higher, just purely because it just happened and people witness it and they go, oh, wow, I didn't see that angle. That was clever. And later on you go, oh, yeah, that was when I said that. And then if you think about it, that's not really funny anyway. Why are they laughing at that? Because it was live. It happened right then and it felt good. I think I've actually forgot the original question. Oh, that's right. Be yourself. Be yourself. Work from there. As you move in different directions when you're doing your act, you might change. But start off with you. And then you always know your own story. Make a joke out of it. Everybody's got a story. It's just a case of looking at it.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, thank you very much. This is a great insight into stand-up comedy. You've been in the business for 16 years. You're also a teacher of stand-up comedy at the School of Hard Knock Knocks. And we have courses running throughout the year, of course, and they'll meet you, they'll meet me, they'll meet other great stand-up comedians, both Australian and international, at the School of Hard Knock Knocks classes that we run across Melbourne and very soon around Australia. Thanks very much for your time. Have a good one. Good luck in the boxing. And we'll see you on stage.
Yeah, thank you, Murray. We'll see you on stage. We'll see you at the next class.
Cheers, mate.